Hello from Form, your digital design library. In this video, digital modeller Liam Shaw demonstrates how to use one of our shell scans to create a distinctive stationery holder, giving you a truly unique way to keep your desk tidy.
Alright, so the first video is going to involve a Nautilus shell. It's going to be quite a simple edit, but I'm just going to access my tools here, which is I put into my ZBrush installation folder, so I can use the Lightbox, which should be here when you open it up. Mine happens to be in the tool here, and under this folder. And I'm just going to open up here the Nautilus shell. And the one thing that concerned me when I first opened this was the orientation is a bit off when I'm using the snapping tools here. I'm just going to check out my grid as well, the floor, just to make sure which area is snapping to where. And I'm also thinking about, I want to center this, so I'm going to put it sort of in the middle of this grid here, and I'm just going to play around the orientation real quick. It doesn't have to be perfect, you know, just because this is something that we're going to print out, so you know, it just has to be kind of roughly, you know, to a degree. I mean, it's not like some sort of aeroplane part that has to fit into something so securely. So you know, but I wanted it to sort of be a bit more sort of centered and stuff, seeing as we are going to print this out. And I was just thinking about, you know, whether the printers use the sort of 3D space grid, like it has to be in the center and stuff like that. So I'm just making sure, you know, and that looks pretty good. Now the idea I had for this shell was it was going to be some sort of pencil holder, and I was just thinking about this area here. It could be like some sort of tray, which is kind of cool looking. So that's the idea. The idea I have is that there's going to be sort of holes coming around its spine here, and then I'm going to sort of sort this area out in the middle to make it a bit more, you know, because from the scan area, and I'd imagine that this shell is hollow all the way through, so the scan is just kind of added in this sort of area here. There's a couple of pinching problems as well. This area here is a bit of a problem, but let's just see how we can fix that a little bit. So the first thing I want to do is get rid of this floating geometry in the middle here. So I'm just going to come to my selection brushes, come to select lasso, and just isolate this area down here. And then I'm going to isolate this area, the floating geometry here. And let's just make sure that I have no pieces of geometry around there. That seems to be okay. So all I'm going to do now is invert my selection by holding Control-Shift and just click on the blank canvas. And that's still there. Alright, I need to drag actually. My mistake. And that's pretty much hidden right now. To actually delete it, we need to come into this modify topology thing here and just press delete hidden, and that's now gone. And before we dynamesh this, I just want to thicken out these edges a little bit. To do that, I'm just going to use a brush. So I'm going to press, I'm actually going to get my clay buildup here. I use a hotkey, pressed B, CB, brush clay buildup. And what I'm going to have to do is, so I don't, if I sculpt on it now, just with the default settings, you're going to notice now that I'm pulling out the wall of the geometry behind it as well. What we can do to solve that is just go into the brush settings here, come to auto masking and click on backface, and what it's going to do is when we sculpt this side, it's going to actually mask out this area automatically. So now that we brush here, you can see that that area there is unaffected. Now the reason why I'm thickening out this wall is because when you print it out, it's just literally just gonna the way that, you know, it gets printed out is, I think it's some sort of laser cutter. So when it actually cuts this thin, it's probably just going to go all the way through. So we just need to thicken out this real rough, and then we're going to smooth it out after we've done. But we also need to dynamesh as well to get a bit more sort of geometry in there. But for now, I'm just making sure the actual sort of walls are thick enough to facilitate our needs. Just by doing this. Don't have to be sort of careful about what you're doing. There are tons and tons of way of making stuff sort of polished later on. But for now, you know, we just need to thicken out this area a little bit. But I'm trying to be fast because I want this video to be about 20 minutes long. So obviously, if you want to print this out for somebody or yourself, you may want to take a bit more care in what you're doing. Just trying to get a bit more sort of surface to work with as well. Probably need to be a bit more careful on these edges near where it bends out. I'm not sure how Dynamesh is going to handle this because it is really thin. We'll see. Because the idea I had is that I was going to Dynamesh this and then I was going to project, which you will see how that's going to work for us in a second when we actually do it. But still adding a bit more thickness on there. Smooth it out a little bit and make it a bit more nicer to work with when we project. There's a couple of areas in there that are problematic, but I think when we Dynamesh that it's going to smooth it out anyway, so nothing to worry about there. Okay, that looks okay. Might be a bit thin on this edge. Probably going to have to go around this edge a few times, to be honest with you. We have to make sure that it's going to project properly. See, even the simple edits like this probably going to take a little bit of work. It's just, you know, the problems with 3D, I guess. But you know, once you're sort of used to the software, I guess these edits aren't particularly difficult once you sort of understand the limitations and the needs. So yeah, I'm going to try it in a minute. Let me just make sure this is a bit more equal. It looks pretty nice and fat. Looks like a mess though at this minute, but who knows? Maybe you like it. Maybe you want it to look like this inside. You know, I don't really mind it, to be honest. But for the sake of this video, I'm gonna smooth it out anyway. All right, so let's just try what we've got here. I'm actually gonna duplicate this whilst it's there, just so I have a, you know, I can revert back to this if I need to. And the first thing we want to do is go into our geometry thing here, geometry menu, go into Dynamesh, and this little thing, this little menus here, I want to hit project. What the projector is going to do, it's going to try and retain all this surface detail as best as it can. And I'm going to try it on the default resolution. I'm just going to hit Dynamesh and see what we get. It's probably not enough to work with, so I'm going to go for about 300, see what that gives us. That is okay looking. Yeah, it's not bad. It's got enough. Okay, I'm going to stick with this res for now. I'm going to actually, no, I'm just going to press Control D to duplicate that. And I'm just going to revert to this one here. And where this sort of weirdness is happening here, I'm expecting some sort of odd results. Because what we're going to do now is we are going to grab this here, and on the mesh that we've just made, the mesh that we've just Dynameshed, you're going to select that, and then we're going to come down to the geometry tab. Oh, actually, it's in the subtool palette here, and we're going to go to something here called project. And what project does is it takes the mesh you've got selected and it projects any other meshes that are visible, which are these sort of little eye icon here means it's visible. If I click that, you'll notice it's going to disappear. So any sort of subtools down here you have, it's going to try and sort of basically push through the details that I have onto the mesh that you have selected. So let's hit project. It's going to think about it up here for a second or two. And I'm going to hit solo now to isolate the mesh we have now. And that is starting to look okay. The only problem that I had, the concerns, were this sort of area here, which I think we're probably going to have to smooth out a little bit to see what happens if we do. And we'll probably manually detail that. But, you know, the detail on this sort of shell looks okay. I think enough for 3D printing. Because bearing in mind that this is probably like, I don't know, like 10 centimeters big, so that's more than enough. And we can start to smooth out this area down here. But I think probably from the projection that we're going to get a bit more sort of weird looking areas. I think what I'm going to do now is, once I've smoothed out this area here, which I'm doing right now, is that we're actually going to start to project from this piece now. Because if you project from the older shell, it's always going to push through this messy detail that we have going on down here. Like this little pinching area down here could be a bit of a problem for us. Let's just see how bad it actually is. See how deep it goes. Yeah, it doesn't look too bad. I think if we it depends if it actually go all the way. No, it's just a pinch. Let's actually see what we can do with this. It's probably just going to take a couple of seconds to mess around, stretching out. Yeah, I don't quite understand how. We may have to leave that for this case. Yeah. So, I guess that's some of the problems that you're going to run into when you're doing this kind of work. But I think once we apply some sort of more smoothing on here, it'll probably look a bit more natural. But you know, it is supposed to be a shell, I guess. So it really depends on what you're trying to make, to be honest with you, and what you want to print out. Okay, so I'm now going to grab a polish brush. I'm going to press BH to get this brush, and I'm just going to start to go around this sort of inside of this area here, and you can notice now that this is really sort of churning through that sort of smooth kind of feel to it. But if you want to rough this inside out, then that's pretty easily done as well. But for me, I'm just going to check out some of this polished stuff, you know. Just try and get some of these areas looking a bit more sort of finished kind of look. Go over that pinch. Yeah, that pinch isn't too bad anymore. Now that we've applied this brush over the top. And you're probably wondering what I'm going to do about the holes. I mean, we haven't done any of that so far, which I'm just going to do in a minute. I'll also chop off the bottom as well, which is a fairly simple thing to do. So just get some more of this smoothness around here. Well, that's kind of interesting. It was just a bit, you know, how it was all blocky before because of the polygons that were there. So, I don't know. But you can do whatever you want to this area if you were designing this yourself. But now we also want to flatten out this area. But because we fixed the orientation, we know the grid is, you know, the floor would be right here. So we can grab our clipping brush, which is under the same sort of thing. You press Ctrl Shift and click up here. You can find something here called clipping curve, and what we're going to do is just literally Ctrl Shift drag, and you'll notice now a line with a gradient where the gradient is it's basically going to chop or push the polygons to conform to that line, and we just want to make, you know, a flat surface where this thing is going to sort of sit on a desk or whatever, and it's going to be perfectly parallel because we sorted out the orientation of this, like I said. So yeah, that's good. It's now going to sit on a desk or whatever. I mean, you could leave it at that if you wanted, you know, just have some funky kind of shell. But the things we can do with this are pretty sort of limitless. So yeah, anyway. So right, let's cut some holes in this. To do that, we're going to have to dynamesh it again. So I'm just going to hit dynamesh with project on at 312 still. Oh, actually, let me just undo that. Make sure you delete the history on this thing as well. Let's hit dynamesh, and it's going to go through and dynamesh that for us. We have to project the detail back onto this, but the reason why we have to dynamesh is that we have to do something called a boolean. Well, it's not a boolean in this, it's just projecting and dynameshing it in the negative. So I'm just going to grab this insert cylinder brush here, and holding Alt, I'm going to drag it to where I would like to place a hole. Because we've done it in the Alt, it's actually going to inverse the polygons on here. So to see this, I'm going to hit come down to the display properties here and hit flip, and you can see what this sort of cylinder looks like. And you should have a transpose tool already lined up to it by default. So I'm just going to sort of drag this out holding shift just to control the depth of this hole. And I want it to sort of be, I don't know, like kind of like knee deep. Yeah, that's pretty good. And when I control drag, I'm going to hit flip again and control drag again. You'll notice now that it's going to punch a nice big hole in there for us, which is exactly what we needed. You could probably put pens and stuff in there. Probably might be want to be a bit of a more steep angle, but yeah, it's just to give you an idea, I guess. And I'm actually going to draw out another one, just clicking in here and just sort of roughly lining it up there like that. Let's just see where this thing has gone. So yeah, now we have an exact sort of copy of the same size cylinder here. Same thing, just going to move it out, and you know, just sort of line it up where I want it to be, something like that, and then flip it back and delete out that hole, and I should probably line it up a little bit better. It's just sort of playing around a little bit with what I've got here. And that should be cool. And that's just, you know, you go through and you complete the entire thing. But I'm just going to leave it at that just to save some time. And what we have to do now is reproject on this from our other model. And I'm actually going to mask out. I'm going to just try what we've got. I'm probably going to get some odd results if I press project right now. It's funny, project isn't alright. Let's just because that was hidden. Let's hit project on this, and we'll see what happens to those holes. They've turned out kind of weird. Of course, it's trying to push the edges around a little bit. We just smooth that out a little bit. It's the thing about working with 3D sometimes, you know, there's just a lot of sort of odd little errors. Well, not errors, but problems that you come across. But most of them are easily fixed, I guess. There's a bit of pinching going on there as well. Some of the smoothing operation. You probably won't have to worry about that. So yeah, there's your holes. You can probably use H polish if you want to sort of, I don't know, just make a bit more of a noticeable edge on here. Or if you wanted to sort of disguise them more into the surface, just coming to a bit of slash free or something, you know, and just start to sort of add in some cracks and tears and whatnot into this shell. It depends really sort of what look you want to go for. If you want to go for something clean and stuff, then that's cool, but personally I try and blend it in me to the actual shell. And while you're here, you know, you can sharpen up some of these details and stuff. You know, like this sort of crease coming through here, stuff like that. Sort of, it's kind of like photoshopping, I guess. You know, just enhancing sort of the details of this shell a little bit. You know, so it does look kind of a bit smooth and stuff. So, but you know, you can spend literally as much time as you want on this thing. I'd actually probably coming to here maybe with this Alpha 6 on this clay build-up brush here, and I don't know, just sort of maybe smooth out some of these areas in here a little bit, you know, blend them around, so just so it doesn't have those sort of big kind of lines in them. It would take I don't know, a couple of minutes to do the entire thing, get it looking as nice as possible. I think there's some sort of soft brush. I think I never used it before. Concrete. We'll try soft clay, see what that does. That's quite a cool effect. Yeah, like I said before, look, it's entirely kind of what you want to go for, I guess. Everybody has different tastes. I quite like all these lines and stuff. I would be sort of quite curious to see how the 3D printer handles that. But yeah, that's kind of like an idea for some sort of stationary kind of comedy. Not comedy, but what's the word I'm looking for? Novelty. I'm looking some sort of novelty sort of stationery holder made from a shell model, which, you know, to actually sort of make this from scratch would be probably quite difficult to, you know. We've made this in like what, 20-25 minutes. So yeah, that's just some ideas of what you can do with these models, and I hope you sort of enjoyed this little sort of video. Cheers.